One of the most important things we do while drawing the figure is to give the viewer the sense that the figure is a volumetric form on the page. Now, this can be trickier than it sounds. There is nothing flatter than a piece of paper, and yet it is our job to convince the viewer that there's an actual three-dimensional figure on the page. So one great way to do this is to think of every form on the figure as going a direction, either coming towards us or going away from us. Now, finding ellipses on the figure, thinking about each of the forms as a cylinder, is a fantastic way to do this. So in the reference photo, we've actually drawn lines around the limbs of the model, and you can see that these lines actually indicate the ellipses of a cylinder that give us a sense that this leg is coming forward, that this section of the arm is going backward. So at every step of the way, we have these elliptical indications of form. Now, when you're drawing the figure on your own, without a model that has these kinds of marks on them, you can still find multiple locations that these ellipses occur. Now, oftentimes, they're very subtle, but that shouldn't stop you as an artist from emphasizing these forms. Remember, we're not simply copying the figure, we are communicating with the viewer. We are telling the viewer how to look at our artwork. So a lot of these subtle indications, like at the top of the leg here, we can actually see the leg coming in, and there's a subtle indication of an ellipse going up and over before we have the glutes coming out from behind. So again, these simple indications of ellipses give the viewer that sense that this ellipse of the cylinder of the leg is going back into space. Also in sections like the arms, even though they might be in shadow, we can give these subtle indications that again tell the viewer what direction the ellipse is going. One thing I often tell students is that if you can't find any indications of ellipses, make them up. Remember, we have a two-dimensional surface, and communicating that the figure is volumetric often requires drawing things that we don't observe, but that we know to be true. So in areas, say, like the stomach, you can actually extend out some of your lines just a little bit, again, just to give the viewer that extra sense that the stomach is curving a particular direction. Also, when we have these kinds of overlapping lines here, any indication that you can put in that gives us a sense of what direction the form is going. So every form in this reference photo tends to go a slightly different direction, and placing in the ellipses as many times as you can, in as many places as you can, really helps to give a sense of the volume. One strategy I often use is to place what I call subliminal ellipses. So they're not necessarily observed so much on the figure, but we can emphasize them just enough where the viewer barely notices them, but they still tell what direction the form of the figure is going. So up here on the top of the figure, I can even give a sense that this top of the figure, the ellipse, will be going in this direction, whereas at the bottom of the torso here, we have it going a different direction. And if your figure is wearing any clothes, things like waistlines or bra lines can really help to emphasize that. So again, finding and drawing the ellipses and even exaggerating them is a great way to give the viewer the sense of volume that we as figure artists are really looking for, even though we're working on a flat surface.